Hello, welcome to the CamerataCast. This is Andres Marquez, your host as usual. Back from a relatively long hiatus. We hadn't really released any podcast episodes for 3 or 4 weeks since this, or before this recording today. But yeah, I'm really happy to get back onto the track of recording stuff. And with me, I have my favorite band in the world. I got Biggest Hattest Logus.
Biggest Hattest Logan. That's our scientific name.
Biggest
Hattest
Biggest Hats Loganus.
in Looney Tunes, like when Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. But it's like us, Biggest Hattest
It's like a freeze frame of us while we're playing music.
Bismarck, what would your species be?
My specific species?
Yeah, what's your binomial nomenclature?
Bismarckius Doppington.
Doppington. That sounds like your fucking like 18th century manor, like you're a fucking like dandy from the era.
Dandy?
Is dandy 18th century or is that more recent?
I would assume pretty far back, man.
Is that around the same as fops?
What's a fop again?
Puggers?
A fop's like a dandy, right? Like a fancy laugh.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fop.
actually, that does sound familiar.
Yeah,
Popping.
All right,
wet.
so
Popping wet.
Well, this is Big Hat Logan doing what we do best: banter.
Band.
Put the band in banter.
Yeah.
Banter.
We also bantered to our audience.
During this pandemic.
Oh no, pandemic. Even worse than the plandemic. All right,
In the middle
so
of this Papa Bonds.
wait, what?
I don't know. Keep going.
I thought you were trying to do something with Papa John's.
I was.
Oh, okay.
Better
Well,
ingredients,
I thought you were
better
trying to be-
jokes.
I thought you were trying to be funny. My bad.
No, stop. I'm not trying to hurt you. I don't want to hurt.
Fork.
I don't want to hurt you, but if you keep making jokes like that, you're going down.
Everybody who's ever been on a fucking who's ever listened to our cast is gonna be like, is this what usually happens?
It's going off the rails. We haven't even introduced ourselves formally.
Yeah. Okay.
Just Bismarck.
Yeah.
Why don't y'all introduce yourselves, even though y'all have been on the cast before? But you know,
My genus is Biggest. My species is Nickus.
biggest niggas.
My name's Nick. I play bass in Big Hat Logan.
Mine is Obesius Redonkadus. And I'm a Brandon Cantran, and I play guitar apparently on Big Hat Logan.
Yeah, you see it sometimes.
Sometimes.
If you look at him in the at the right angle, he's playing the
Yeah,
guitar.
otherwise, he's invisible.
He's like a holographic card.
And that's Andres Marquez, the drummer
That's me.
and engineer.
Bismarck, what do you do?
Oh, I'm Bismarck. I do lead vocals, and I'm going to be quiet for the rest of this podcast.
Oh no, it's our Let's Play all over
Alright.
again.
I only come in for the gold.
Just like Olympian.
Like a freaking ninja, like a joke ninja. Just like
All right, so Big Hat Logan is our musical / gameplay content project. We have been on this cast before, Big Hat Logan, but with this new season, as it were, of podcasts, I wanted to start this off with some of my favorite people in the world. One of the most important projects in my creative life. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, Big Hat Logan, we are a alternative punk / indie band, if you
/ stoner /
Prog.
doom.
/ whatever the fuck we're feeling like writing at the time. We've got like
Yeah.
a Frank Zappa-esque song in the works. Shit's going wild.
it's basically just an homage to Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
Baby snakes. How does it go?
Baby snakes. I look around and there's a couple right near me. Baby snakes.
Well, yeah, and we also have a Let's Play channel. If you want to check us out, we are Big Hats Play on YouTube. We play whatever the fuck we feel like, as long as it's balanced with what the algorithm wants us to play.
In that case, no.
Among Us.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Well-
it's gonna get to us.
The algorithm section has been fucking us.
Pretty much.
Oh my gosh! Long gone are the days where you could just play something and people would flock to you, because that's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, video games on the internet. It's not. It's
novel.
not fucking. It does. This doesn't look like armor games. This doesn't look like fucking mini clip. These are real games.
Wow.
All right. So, why
Speaking
don't
of which, an Armor Games Let's Play would be awesome. Like the classic Armor Games Flash games.
I'd be so down, dude. There's some top shit on there.
Are you gonna guess the peer?
Only if we play Bowman 2
Yes.
and Gunblood.
Let's
I'm
do it.
down.
I'm
Yeah,
down.
let's
We
do it.
gotta play those
Next
two
week.
games. We gotta play Territory Wars.
Oh,
I remember
yeah.
Territory Wars.
Dude, yes.
I used to play that with Johnny in high school.
Ooh. You
And
ever
maybe
played-
if we have time, we'll play Tanks, which is basically
Yes.
like low tier worms.
Or Bubble Tanks.
What was
Bubble
Bubble
Tanks?
Tanks?
Bubble Tanks was this game where there's like a little bubble. It's like the map, and then you control this tank that shoots bubbles at other bubble creatures. And you clear the zone, and you get XP. And then the farther away you go from the middle, the more difficult the enemies get. But you could like spec into different types of tanks, and you can like shoot really big bubbles, or shoot like a spread of bubbles, or shoot really fast, or like there's all sorts of like a talent tree basically. And it's so cool.
That's
Like for
right.
a Flash game, it's awesome.
Wow.
I haven't heard you this excited in a while.
I love Bubble Tanks.
Yeah, man. Even though Flash was pretty much like, I can't afford an Xbox, I can't afford a Wii, so I'm gonna get, I'm gonna go on to fucking. What else was there? Armor games,
Miniclip.
Miniclip,
Addicting games.
Addicting games, yeah.
Cool math games.
But there were some fucking amazing games on there. Like there was, I think it was called Electric Man. It was like this stick fighter, like a stick fighting game, but it actually had like really advanced combat. There was like you could do different kinds of combos. You had like 4 different move inputs. There was like a punch, a kick, a grapple, and like something else. But it was like it felt like very basic Tekken or Virtua Fighter, and it was super fucking awesome.
That's pretty right.
Yeah, that's what we do. We play Let's Plays, and we hope that the YouTube gods notice us in our attempts to lift ourselves from obscurity.
This goes for the music too.
Yeah, that as well.
In fact, mostly the music.
Mostly music. Yeah.
I mean, I find equal enjoyment in both of those activities, music and Let's Playing. I really want to get back into video games, honestly, because like. Shout out to one of the channels that I've been really delving into, fucking Alpha Beta Gamer. I think this is called Alpha Beta Gamer. We discovered Night of the Consumers from their channel. We played it for one of our early ass Let's Plays. But yeah, this guy or guys, I don't really know like the nature of the channel other than every day these people or this person just posts Let's Plays, like 15 to 20 minute long Let's Plays of obscure indie developed games, and it's like a treasure trove. I really want to get back into it now.
That's cool.
But anyways, let's get back onto the topic of us.
Yeah.
We're the important ones today.
Always, baby.
Yeah, so Big Hat Logan, we released an EP just about a month ago, correct?
The
right.
21st of May? May 21st?
I do believe
Yeah.
it was in May. So
May
yeah, that
21st.
makes it just over a month that
Yeah.
we've had our first EP, Watch It Happen. Watch, I was about to say watch this happen, but when I said watch it happen, I was like, no, that's incorrect.
Watch this fire happen burn.
Watch this fire burning happening.
Watch the happening.
But in any case, yeah, so how do y'all feel? We just released an EP to critical acclaim
From us.
from us.
My uncle, who is a musician, said it was good, so he's a critic.
That's all we need in the world. If everybody's uncle could just like our EP, how
a
many
lot of
uncles
uncles.
is that? That's millions of uncles.
Yeah.
Maybe even billions.
Well, maybe not. Maybe billions, but they'd overlap quite a bit.
Yeah,
Oh, good point.
that's true. That's true.
Hmm.
But in any case,
Tell your uncles.
tell your uncle. Tell
Don't listen
everybody
to
in
it, but
your
tell your uncle.
Yeah, don't subject yourself to it. Subject somebody that's relatively relative to
Our
you.
music can only be heard by uncles. Once you become an uncle, you can hear our music. Otherwise, you can't.
This is marketing gatekeeping to the extreme.
Yeah, what is this white noise?
You have now reached the uncle barrier.
Guess I'll have to wait until my sister's child is born.
Yeah, please beg your siblings to have children just so you can listen to this album.
And then you have children so they can listen to this album.
That's
too.
right.
But my sister's only 7.
What did I say?
Oh,
Big
no.
Hat Logan says, "Do it."
Big Hat. Do you think Big Hat Logan can wait?
Oh no!
It's been like what, like 7 minutes, and we've already crossed into.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
Oh,
I was waiting for that one.
That was my line. So just switching it to time. Oh, we've been on here for like 10 minutes already, and we haven't even talked about our EP at length.
we briefly hinted at it.
Yeah, kind of.
This fire burns.
No, the first one.
Oh, we haven't even fully discussed the first one.
Oh,
I mean, I just wanted to know how you guys feel about having music out.
I am very proud of the EP, and I'm glad Nick wrote the best song on there.
aw.
He did. He
The
wrote
Gap is a
fucking-
great song.
Yeah, so there are 4 tracks on this EP, each of them written to various extents by all of us. Nick wrote the vast majority of probably the most, huh?
Half the.
I
Half.
wrote 2 tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
The
Yeah,
half.
that's right.
Yeah.
Life on Rent.
The second
Well,
half
I was
of
going
it.
to say he wrote the vast majority of the Gap. Like, we
Yeah.
all came together to write the ending part, the
For
funny
sure.
part, as
For
it
sure.
were.
The
funny
funny
part,
part,
yeah.
yeah.
But he had the main riff, he had the idea for the lyrics.
Mhm.
I mean, he wrote the lyrics entirely. And The Gap is like our most popular song at the moment on Spotify, and it's probably our most powerful song on the album, both in terms of recording quality and just musical feel. But yeah, it's like, personally, I feel accomplished having put this out to the quality that it's at. I feel that it's really nice to hear from friends of mine who are like listening to it and are like, dude, this is fucking dope. Like, I showed Hunter Dasuo, shout outs to Dasuo, and he was like, oh yeah, this is fucking rad. He even commented on our Please Police Me video on Instagram. And I showed it to a couple of my childhood friends, and they were like, oh yeah, this is fucking dope. So that's like an immense feeling right there.
Yeah.
Just people recognizing talent and creativity and work.
Yeah, I've had coworkers who actually, I basically bullied them into listening to it.
Okay, it's good. There's a flat note on the solo, but otherwise it's fantastic.
That's every solo motherfucker.
I did that on purpose. Appreciate my art.
It's spicier that way.
I give it 4.5 stars out of 5.
But yeah, I remember, or I guess I told Bismarck, one of our coworkers, I guess listen to the EP, and then after the Gap, he was like, "That was a good song." I was like, it was his reaction.
But,
The
but still, it was
way-
nice to hear. Yeah, I'm proud of it. I just listening to it, I'm like, I could do better. But I think that's always gonna be there.
Yeah.
So just
Man,
move on to the next EP and.
I felt that way with practice today. Like, every time we played a song, I was like, I wish I recorded it as well as I'm playing it right now. But I can never do that because it feels so much more natural playing it live than
Yeah.
recording.
Just
Yeah. Guess we gotta do another live album.
I can't wait, dude. Man, I want to be able to record like a legit live album at FTG because
Yeah.
they have the perfect setup for it. Everybody who's in the OC area, if you're looking to play shows or go to shows, check out FTG. Find the good music. I'm not doing promos, by the way. I just really want to shout out awesome people in the hood. On the
Big Hat
mean
Logan should
str-
play there. Should be our first show.
Oh, dude, I'm totally down. That was like one of
Yeah.
our last shows. Is Reptile Dysfunction.
That was our last show.
It was
It
the
was our last
Reptile
show?
Dysfunction show.
And it was that's the live album.
Yeah, Dysfunction is Unbreakable.
Yeah.
It's a good album. If you listen to it.
I have listened to it.
You have?
Yeah.
That means a
How'd
lot.
you like it?
What'd you think?
It was shit. No.
I turned it off.
It was much better than the studio track.
No, it was.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
That's a weird feeling, honestly. That's like a Peter Frampton kind of shit, where it's like our studio tracks for our Reptile Dysfunction album that we released, Killers for Hire, felt alright. But then listening to the live album and just feeling the energy from all these tracks, it was just so like bumping. The bass was huge. The drums were fucking all over the place, for better and for worse. And fucking, no, seriously, I can remember clearly some of the times, especially during Disco Inferno, where I was like, oh, I played this fill a bit too fast, and now I'm not coming in on the one. But yeah, and the fucking like hearing all the old fucking Reptile Dysfunction guitar solos, like Disco Inferno's solo, where it's basically just like a minute and a half of like different melodies and shit like that. It was
I
awesome.
never really thought about it. Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was. It was like a lot of our songs were like half solo and half Bismarck lyrics.
Half Bismarck screaming.
Man, if there's one Reptile Dysfunction song you would want to bring back for Big Hat Logan, what would it be?
Disco Inferno.
You think so?
Just because like it starts the energy off right
Mm-hmm.
for me.
I like Swamps.
Swamps is perfect. It's such a fun song.
Plus, I would like to hear Nick's take on a bass solo.
Oh,
Yeah, that would be
yeah,
cool.
that's right. That was
That's a
one of
good
that was
idea.
a Johnny bass solo.
But
section.
also, in terms of like reworking a song, "Beautiful and Cold" would be really cool to like actually work on.
I had I actually let me pull this up real fast. I wrote like okay, so we had a song that never made it onto our Reptile Dysfunction album or EP. Which one would you consider it?
Album.
Our album. It's called Zombie Outbreak. And like once I was in the shower, I was having my weird shower thoughts that, in the words of George Carlin, kept me out of the good schools. And we had this song, and it was such a fucking amazing like rockabilly or maybe psychobilly tune called Zombie Outbreak about zombies.
breaking out.
I wrote this fucking I just imagined in my head turning this like 2.5 minute like weird punk thing into a 5-minute zombie opus. And I wrote like a whole bunch of lyrics. I'll have to show you guys soon. I'm not gonna go over it right now. This is content time. But yeah, I gotta show you guys that.
Sounds exciting.
It
Yeah.
is. Zombie Outbreak was one of my favorite songs to play because it
That
was
was
like
fun.
you could really just the lyrics and the tone of the music really created an image. And of course it was an image of a zombie outbreak. No surprise there, but it was just so powerful. It was like that's another thing with like both Reptile Dysfunction lyrics and fucking Big Hat Logan lyrics. A lot of the stuff we write about, I can clearly imagine what is happening. It is visceral and it is like literal. It's metaphorical enough where it's like beautiful, but it's literal enough where you can see exactly what we're talking about, and that's one of my favorite things about this.
Yeah, I think I found The Economy is the best lyrics.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I
You
wrote
tell.
that. I made this.
Oh yeah, and that's on the This Fire Burns upcoming EP.
That's right. That's what we got to talk about. We have another EP in the works. We are basically done with recording, and right now I've mixed nearly to completion most of the 5 tracks on the album. It's 5, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we Yeah, Twist of Fate and Last Dance.
Well, on the thing they're separate, so
Yeah.
the track technically.
Well, yeah. So this album, I feel, is. I personally felt more confident going into it because
Yeah.
we already had the experience of Watch It Happen, and I also feel a lot more connected to this album, especially in these trying times, because it's a very openly political album. It's very. I think it speaks to all of our our political leanings, as it were. There's a lot of stuff on that album that is very anti-capitalist, very anti-police. Am I speaking against your interest, Nick?
No,
Okay, good.
I-
Just want to make sure.
I mean I got a weird political view, but no, I'm not convinced capitalism is the best economic system. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know, the police issue is tough for me. Can we get into it?
Yeah.
Let's get
That's
into
what
it.
this is about.
Sure.
Like,
So, if my problem is if there's going to be a state, that means there has to be some method of legitimately enacting violence, because that's really what the state is. It's like a legitimate coercion, like controlling people. Ultimately, it comes down to violence. Like if you resist, eventually that's what it comes to. And the police is kind of like the violent arm the government on a domestic level, other than I guess the National Guard. But like, how else do you do that? Like, I understand that our current I don't know, administration or like a police system might not be in its most perfect form, but like it seems somewhat necessary to have like a group of like professional enforcers. Yeah.
I think from my reading, and of course for everybody listening and for everybody who does their own research on this, it basically is their own research, because you can't read all the information in the world. But from what I've read regarding socialist and anarchist alternatives to policing, the main takeaway from a lot of these different ideas for alternatives is voluntarism and a need for the most complete consensus possible. A lot of what I've read, there is this kind of pervading sort of idea that in order to have a stable society in which the in which laws and morals don't need to be enforced to the extent that they are in our current system, there needs to be a level of understanding between everybody in that society that is such where nobody feels the need to either enforce beyond their means or to go beyond the means of laws and morals that would be enforced. And a lot of that has to do with the size of organization. Because with a lot of like socialist and anarchist alternative ideas for societies, a lot of that is really focused in the local rather than creating something that spans the size of like the U.S. If you have something that is more communal and if you have a system that is organized within a small space with a relatively small amount of people, then it is far easier to maintain personal or even like acquaintance level relationships with the people in your community. And from that, it's far easier to be able to cooperate with people. It's easier to communicate with people. And of course, there has to be a level of cooperation from people who are outside of the bounds of their community, because like if we're to maintain the level of technological innovation we have today, that just needs to be a thing, because you can't have all resources in one place. But even then, like just making sure that the most amount of communication takes place in a local level can really help solidify communication and relationships to the point where there is a better understanding. And of course, policing also comes from the assumption that if you're going to it comes from the assumption that people will always do bad things because there's a broken part of everybody, and there's like everybody
I don't
comes.
agree with that.
Huh?
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I don't agree with that. That's where policing comes from.
Oh,
I don't think it comes from like having some like corrupt soul view or something like that. Like it's some Christian relic. I think it has to do with the fact that for a society to be cohesive, like you said, there has to be some sort of moral standard.
mm-hmm.
But because, at least on a personal level, morals tend to be relativistic, not everyone's going to abide by that standard. You could have someone who thinks it's perfectly reasonable to, for example, tell their children that they can't leave the house, they have to observe strict religious mandates, and like their daughters, for instance, can't have a public life. In an anarchistic society, there's nothing you could do about that. You need in order to prevent people from being authoritarian towards their own families, and in those small communities, from creating situations that are actually oppressive. It seems like there needs to be some type of overarching control mechanism.
Yeah.
Go for
it. Yeah. I don't like stepping on people, so I'll just kind of pause.
I end it. Yeah, go for it.
My bad. But yeah, so two things on that. I think for one, I think instead of because that is definitely something that comes up in all spectrums of political discussion on enforcement of morals. Um, people definitely there is no person who is completely untraumatized. There's no person who is completely without some strange bend in the natural moral fibers of their being. And for that, I think rather than going into this sort of situation from the perspective of, okay, we have to like, how do I put it? I feel like one of the main approaches to this is like, okay, so if you have a situation like that where somebody is like trying to make sure that their children have no sort of social life and that their children are completely kept from the outside world, then how can we approach this family from the most empathic way possible in order to help so that both the children are liberated from this oppressive family structure and the parents or parent is liberated from the oppressive thoughts within them that they are trying to perpetuate through their children. And that is something that police are not trained to do
Oh,
in
100%.
America or in most places.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that people are vying for when they say defund the police. It's not we need nothing at all. We just go without any sort of enforcement. It's we want alternatives. We want people who are trained to deal with mental crises. We want people who are trained to deal with people who might not have lived in a stable household for years, who might have been homeless for years. We want people who can deal with things in a way that American police officers cannot. And another thing, I think.
Can I respond to that before you get to the other thing?
Yeah, go ahead. Also,
So-
let's make sure Brandon and Bismarck can share their thoughts at
Oh,
some
for
point.
sure.
Because this has gone from a podcast to
It's a debate now.
I'm content listening.
Okay.
I can't. I'm too stupid to formulate words.
You guys put words real good together. I have to like take time to write words out if I'm gonna
Yes.
do that.
And even then, it's
Yeah, sometimes my S's are backwards.
yeah. Sometimes, buddy, they're upside down. But yeah,
But yeah, no, I agree with you that violence should never be the first option. But worst case scenarios happen all the time. Like, you could approach this example, like this authoritarian family, with all the love and empathy and good intentions, right? But they can still say like, "Fuck off! I'm gonna shoot you if you come near me." And you need someone to be able to deal with that, like no matter what. I totally agree that it would be good to have like some other arm of the executive branch that's like a peacekeeping negotiator type unit.
Mm-hmm.
That makes total sense. And I'm saying this as, like, obviously you're talking from the anarchist perspective, and I'm, at least in this discussion, taking the position of the more like statist position, and I'm advocating what would be the least possible change that would still be effective and nice. So yeah, I'm saying that it would make total sense to have like I don't know, a different type of policing that's still about like enforcing cohesion and making sure everyone gets on nicely, but they don't shoot before they knock.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't believe, like I said, there's no like completely unbroken person. And from that sort of logic, there have to be people who are also trained to deal with what might be considered combat with another person. That is something that just can't be avoided in this state or in this.
That's my original point.
Oh yeah, like we agree on that then. Yeah. But I also think regarding policing, I think one thing that also is somewhat not necessarily revelatory, but that I think a lot of people don't really kind of realize when it comes to their policing is that they're in neighborhoods in the modern USA, your police officers are not local. Your police
Mhm.
officers often come from more affluent neighborhoods. Maybe not even affluent. They come from neighborhoods that are, better funded in terms of stuff like policing as well
Mhm.
as, I guess other sort of fiscal responsibilities.
Sure.
A
Or,
lot
or
of.
they just don't want to be recognized. They're just afraid.
But yeah, so like that's another thing that ties into the whole localization of society as a whole. Me and the guys, we were talking about this in our last session for Big Hat's Play. There is a well-functioning commune in France at the moment called the
Mm.
ZAD, and it's a French acronym, so I don't understand what it means.
Are they
But
the ones that took over that McDonald's?
no,
That's a different
that
thing
was
in
also
France?
super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
The
Yeah.
people who turned that McDonald's into a food bank.
Yeah.
But these folks, about 2014-ish, there was a plan by the French national government to completely decimate, or I keep saying decimate, I know that's a different word, to completely destroy this natural wetlands that was like incredibly vital to France's natural ecosystem. And they were just going to put a big airport on it. And a whole bunch of French citizens went in and they were like, okay, over our dead bodies. You take this when we no longer can fight. And
Mhm.
for 6 years, they did that. They fought with paramilitary, with police, um, but they couldn't take them out without creating something that people would see as a attempt
Mm.
at, you know, a mass murder, as it
Mhm.
were. What's a bigger word for that? A massacre.
Mhm.
But yeah, so the French government tried for 6 years to take them out of that area. But during that 6 years, the communards, as they're typically called, I believe, they built a very well-functioning commune with, at one point, about 1,000 people in it. And it had farms, it had running electricity, it had a whole bunch of like what many people would consider modern amenities, from taken from these people's prior lives. And after 6 years, the government gave up. They were like, we can't. This is a waste of resources. We can no longer spend resources trying to take these. I'm not sure if they're socialists or communists or whatever, but trying to take these leftist occupiers out of this area. So we're just not going to build the airport.
Mhm.
And it was a victory. It was a big victory for environmentalists, because that wetlands area was vital to the major natural ecosystems in the area. And it was also a victory for people who are standing up to state suppression and oppression. But the key takeaway from that, of course, is that at the level of 1,000 people, give or take,
Mhm.
things are much easier to handle when
Oh,
it
for
comes
sure.
to like personal relationships, and that's what a lot of like anarcho-communist thinking comes from. It is not just we want to take back the means of resources and we want to be able to have a say in how resources are used. It's also about creating better relationships with the people around you and creating a better relationship with the land that you are on. And in that regard, when it comes to enforcing morals and when it comes to enforcing codes, as it were, I think that when you are able to create at least a temporary state in which there is very limited state interference, then education can take place. That's one of the main things that really needs to happen. Helping people kind of break out of the oppressive mindsets that we are conditioned in the capitalist structure. Because once you're able to free yourself from that, I think it's far easier to learn about more empathic ways of communication and learn about ways to really, overcome the mindsets that keep the capitalist state going while limiting the individual.
Yeah. I'm pretty much in agreement about a minimal state, rather than like a total lack of a state. Because I think like on the topic of education, uh, education still has to be mandatory, um, in order to ensure that children learn about how to become like an agent and not just get authoritarian will imposed upon them by their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the like village type structure that you're describing, if there wasn't mandatory education on like a state level, then there'd be no way to ensure that children actually get that kind of education.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could be that they go to school and learn the same things that their parents would abuse them with, like the traumatic type of teachings they get at home.
Right.
And then you'd end up with, if you took a whole state and turned it into like a series of communes like that, then there'd be a big disparity between them, and there wouldn't really be equity, what to speak of equality.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that as well. I think at some level, education must be standardized. And I think as well that that is something that really, when it comes to the topic of consensus, I think that that's something that, you know, the vast majority of able-bodied and able-minded people must really, you know, decide upon. Because, as you probably know, our education system at this current point is basically made to maintain a working populace that does not question too deeply, you know, the state of affairs, as it were. So I would say that in my perfect world, as it were, education would be made to allow for maximum amounts of critical thinking, maximum amounts of experimentation, and for the creation of interests in learning and not just in doing. But again, I think one of the things that any society that is going to break away from capitalism must have is the will to experiment, because there isn't going to be a single right way. I was reading this article from Ill Will, written by an Italian leftist, and he was describing an idea of not just one communism but many communisms. And that idea basically stems from, there are so many different disparities in ideas between everybody across the planet nowadays. Um, there has to be a minimum amount that people will be willing to agree with when it comes to, you know, when it comes to having a sort of agency in how land and resources are used, but there also has to be a leniency in how, you know, governing bodies of the people will govern the rest of the people and themselves, as it were, because there's going to have to be some sort of compromise at every level of organization in order to make it so that society is cohesive without becoming authoritarian again.
Yeah, that follows. Yeah, if everyone were just in isolated villages, right, in isolated communes where there wasn't any sort of contact and cooperation, then it would be pretty hard to manage a lot of like large-scale operations.
Yeah.
And they'd be susceptible to violent large-scale operations from people that decide to organize on a state level.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that makes total sense. Although one wonders, one being me, if that just ends up looking like a state after when it gets down to it. It's like, yeah, you know, we're just gonna non-coercively agree to coordinate, and we're going to elect people to be in positions where they can help manage these different departments. And, you know, one guy, he's going to manage the most departments. And, oh, geez, we created a state.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, as somebody who's lived in capitalism for the entire life, and who has lived in a country which has known only capitalism for its entire existence, I cannot say for certain what sort of socialist or anarchist or leftist in general sort of system would work best for the people existing in this country right now. And again, that's why I say experimentation is key. You look at countries that had successful socialist or anarchist organizations until being, you know, destroyed by the U.S. or its allies. Countries like Chile, countries like Cuba, You look at these a majority of these Latin American and African countries that had successful regimes, and they were all organized in very different ways. Some of them were very communistic and very locally based, and some of these countries, while relatively large, were also small enough so that there could be a centralized government that at the same time didn't overstep its own bounds of governing. The only real thing stopping them from being able to create more prosperity for their people was the outside capitalist states. But again, there isn't going to be a one size fits all solution.
Mhm.
Perhaps in some parts of the world, a state like solution would be best in order to maintain equal balances of adhesion to rules, as it were, and personal liberty ensured in a most equitable way possible. And for
Mhm.
some areas, it might look more like a network or federation of communes.
Mhm.
There is no point in history after the Industrial Revolution in which a communist or anarchist or socialist regime lasted for so long that it could have been considered like a working society, um,
You mean functioning?
a functioning society.
Okay.
Because all of these socialist and anarchist whatever societies were also basically in wartime mode.
Mhm.
They were constantly acting on both the interior front of keeping their people, um, you know, um, keeping people, how do you say, alive, and also working on the exterior front of making sure that capitalist incursions didn't, destroy their state, which 9 times out of 10 that happened. But yeah, so I am open to possibilities. I can't say for certain whether or not a state would or wouldn't work outside of the current capitalist system we're in. I can't say that because I've never seen it function for very long. But that's all a matter of the future. It really is kind of like crossing that bridge when we get there sort of logic, because there's only really so much you can plan for when it comes to large amounts of humans. I'm sorry, but we have focused about 25 minutes of this
I haven't even gotten warmed up.
and not to really derail anything, but I did kind of want this to also be focused at least half on art, as it were. Can you stay for much longer, Nick?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. So yeah, our next EP, This Fire Burns, is very much a political statement, or a number of political statements, and a police cover. So
Yeah, that's funny. I will say, please. I mean, I didn't write the song, but I will say, please police me, is more so an anti-American police song.
It's more written about the current climate and overstepping of boundaries that they've been that you see on TV.
yeah, and most of
explore
the time you don't
experience,
see on TV.
Yeah, you don't see
Sure.
enough of it.
Yeah.
All the unreasonable uses of force and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I feel it's only been about a year and a half where these sorts of incidents were more widely reported. I can't recall very often at all where the police shooting of an unarmed person of color made national headlines. There was, of course, Trayvon Martin. There was Tamir Rice. Was Tamir Rice more recent?
I don't. This is all like in the last 5 years. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Philando Castile.
Yeah, and like it makes headlines for a month and then it just goes under, as is usual with the media cycle. But I feel it's only been since George Floyd's murder that major news networks are willing to dedicate more time, more resources, and more time and more conversation to it, which is really strange because this is something that's been happening for far more than a year and a half. It's been happening since police in America was a concept that was manifested. Um,
Slave chasers.
basically.
Mm.
But yeah, it's like that's one of my favorite songs to play, musically, of course. But it's also the song that elicits like the greatest emotional reaction from me, hearing the lyrics and just envisioning what this song is really about. Um, yeah, like I don't
Plus,
know,
the song itself is just fast and violent too.
Yeah.
like
you
the
know?
police.
Yeah, right. You know what? I have a spicy view on the police and their violence. I think the problem is that they're not trained in violence well enough, and they just draw their guns because they don't know how to fight.
Mm.
Like if all the police were like black belts in jujitsu and like did steroids and were like 6 foot tall, 200 pounds,
That would be a little better.
it would be. First of all, yeah, it would be badass, right? It'd be super cool.
Yeah.
But then like they'd have the intimidation factor, which would mean they wouldn't have to draw their weapons as often, and they'd know how to use unarmed combat in order to disable people in a way where their first resort isn't a lethal option.
I agree with you like halfway on that. Just for the so there's also the case to be made that a lot of police sign-ups, as it were, a lot of people who go into the police do so for the money. It's like it's not because of the want to serve as a civil unit. It's because like I just need a job, as it were, and this is the job I need.
We'll cut that out.
One moment.
I can't even tell what it is.
It's a mailman or something. Pickle Rick.
Like the most liked video on Thomas's channel.
Pickle Rick.
And the YouTube comments is like, go to 4532.
Like all of them.
Yeah.
And like 31st.
Yeah. Honestly, those type of comments are great. They help with the algorithm.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go on some YouTube channels where people just like commenting for the algorithm.
Yeah. That's our channel.
Yeah. Get your uncle to comment on the
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
Every episode we have has a comment from at least me and Brent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the early episodes. The early episodes were all Nick.
Oh
No
yeah, that's
commenting.
right. Yeah.
I didn't know commenting up the algorithm.
I did. Does making more than one comment as the same person help the algorithm?
I don't know.
I've commented twice on a couple of them.
Me too.
Maybe you comment and then you reply to another person's comment. And then you have to, as the creator of the video, reply to people's comments too. That helps, like, community engagement. I've heard that helps. You post on the official channel, or you post on your personal one, and then with the official one, you respond to yourself.
Yeah, and then I just keep doing back and
Yeah,
forth.
yeah, yeah. You're like, haha, so funny.
Yeah, what about 034? Pickle Rick, Pickle Rick, Pickle Rick.
Pickle Rick, Pickle Rick, Pickle Rick.
Yeah.
Skirt. Any 3-syllable, like, triplet. That's how it goes.
Don Rickles, which is he was a pickle. Pickle Rick. Pickle Rick. There you go. Hit song. There you
What was
go.
that?
It was somebody from this company called Active.
A salesman?
Basically.
Oh, okay.
But they were like for pest control and stuff.
Oh.
We already have somebody who does that. We have a family friend who does pest control here. I'm always suspicious of that kind of stuff because, like, I watched this video about how this woman from Indiana got a visit, like, from Child Protective Services. And they were like, oh, we need to inspect your house because we've heard that you people are actually doing drugs and that you have a history of drugs. And they invited her in and she's like, okay, so, you know, you might have somebody who needs to check on you at the birth of your child. And then, of course, she went onto Reddit because, Reddit is a 50-50 chance of either being like, a hellish landscape of internetness or the opposite. And, these people were like, hey, so we know a couple people who actually work with the Indiana Child Protective Services. This woman doesn't work there, and this woman is not abiding by, CPS, like, rules. They're basically trying to take your baby from you, which is something that happens often.
Sheesh.
And yeah, so it's like, I don't know. Ever since I watched that Nexpo video, thank you for scaring me, Nexpo.
Pretty scary.
I was like, anybody who comes to the door who is like, hey, I'm offering this service or I'm here from the government.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I can't prove it either way. Like there isn't really a solid way for me to prove that either way. So just don't come
Yeah.
around
Well,
here.
pest control is a classic scam too, because like they're like, oh, you have to leave your house because we're gonna tent it
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna fumigate it or whatever. And
then
either
they do a Breaking Bad.
like Breaking Bad, right? Like I've seen enough Breaking Bad and know that's sus. But either the employees of that company could steal from you, or you could like inform some other people to do the same, or well, basically that. It's like super suspicious. It's it sets off more alarms for me than like I need to check your gas meter.
Yeah. It's like, and especially from a private company like Aptiv, like if they actually, because somebody came by about a week and a half ago while my folks were still here, from the California, like from the federal, there was some sort of bureau regarding pests, like an actual federal bureau, and they had the seal on their car, they had the California exempt license plate, and that's harder to say like, oh yeah, they faked all that. And of course they were around here because mosquitoes are on the rise this summer.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. But yeah, so it's like with a private company like that though, it's like I've never heard of Aptiv. I've never seen I've never seen a physical business. I've never seen you have ads. Not saying that like every business can't afford that, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, that's really sketchy. For you to just come by and be like that. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm too suspicious.
I don't know. The line between startup and front is pretty thin.
That's the Camerata.
I've met enough Jehovah's Witnesses. It's like those are people. Those Jehovah's Witnesses, like they get all the companies like Watchtower or something that provides like the Bibles, provides pamphlets. Like they do all the translations. Like there's only one company that Jehovah's Witnesses get all their shit from. So it's like that's just a scam. Like you're just like no political twist on that or anything. It's just it's just like if it's just one business managing a religion.
Is it the church that owns that business?
I don't know the specifics of it.
Because like what you're saying could be true, or on the other hand, they could just be like, well, we think this is like the only bona fide source of literature, and like all the other Bible translations are wrong because we disagree with them on this like theological position or whatever.
Yeah, but
it could also be that. Like, how else would they control what gets printed?
I don't know, man. Sketch.
Shit.
Sketch.
Well, I gotta fix my mic real fast.
I don't like the Bibles that use the translation corn. I prefer when the Bibles say maize. I don't trust any Bible that says corn.
I like it when they say Jesus went through the corn maze.
Well, maize wouldn't work because maize didn't exist in that part of the world at that time.
Oh, I don't even know.
Well, corn is also just like a general word for grain.
General word.
Yeah, General Mills, general word.
General Mills.
Oh my god. This is my favorite episode that we've recorded. I mean, not just us, because we've only been on two, but this has been a fucking hilarious romp.
A romp.
With a chunky, meaty political bit.
Yeah, 25 minutes of politics, and then the rest is just us fucking about.
Yeah, so the EP's gonna have 5 songs.
Yeah.
Twist of Fate, which Andres wrote pretty much almost entirely.
Almost.
Which is a anti-war song, I guess.
Basically, it's kind of like, I don't know, I imagined it as a sort of like metaphor almost, like the image came up, and we've discussed this before, it's just like of like a dance, as it were, that politicians play, and I don't know how to describe it without being like too esoteric and cringy, but
That's my favorite.
esoteric cringe. But
Pickle
I
Rick
don't.
was the imposter.
I don't know. I just had all of these like little weird little sayings pop into my head that were just like, that just kind of connected war and the act of creating war with this weird macabre dance or dance macabre. And I don't know. I just put it all into a song. It felt really clever at the time. Like you've been dancing on a live
Yeah.
warhead as of late. I felt really proud of that, even though it's like one line, and I was like, I don't know. I always downplay my own achievements, but it was fun to write. So that's really where it came from. Just an anti-war song. It's also pretty groovy and has nice, clever lyrics.
And what's the second song? Is it next?
The
to you?
cover.
Yeah,
Next
our
to you.
police
As it
cover.
stands,
Ironically,
at
a
least.
police cover. Yeah.
Perfectly placed. Just before Please Police Me.
It's because we want more police covers. Our next EP, all police covers.
Our next EP or our next album is just going to be Synchronicity.
Yeah, just Roxanne 5 times.
Each in a different genre.
Yeah, and Keith.
That sounds like a great idea.
And then what's after? I found the economy.
Oh yeah, that was fun to write. I've been on like a month or so long binge of like Midwest emo and indie rock and stuff.
Which is, it's weird because it just reminds me of like NoFX, like political pop punk.
Oh yeah, I've been into that as well. Like I've been listening to like a lot of like the punk music that you and Johnny have gotten me into, like Choking Victim and Leftover Crack. Like all of that just coalesced into this 4.5 minute sort of declaration against our economy. But yeah, a lot of it was like influenced, like especially the chord changes were influenced more by emo stuff. But then the punk sort of pace, a lot of that came from stuff like NoFX. I listened to a bit of Anti-Flag, and that kind of got in there. I don't know. It just was like a menagerie of all this stuff that I've been listening to and that I used to listen to, and it was really fun to write.
Yeah.
So, probably the best song, in my opinion.
It's definitely
Yeah.
one of
think
the
so.
best songs I've written personally, but I think my favorite song on the album, at least play, is fucking Please Police Me, just because it's like
That's fun.
That's to play.
Yeah,
In terms of like.
but it's just so fun. Like that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fun factor is at a 10 right there.
Yeah, like after at practice today, we played it a couple times, and like after every time we played it, I'm just like, yeah, woo, like every
I was
time.
vocalizing
Yeah,
with
and
And
excitement.
then Nick
So
walked
fucking
out
ready.
and punched an officer,
That's right.
and we all cheered.
Nick picked up a police car and he threw it at another police car.
Yeah,
That's
it was,
true. I did it with my mind.
it was like
Telekinesis.
like scenes from the early 2000s Hulk movie with Phil Tanks. It
Yeah,
was,
yeah. I ripped the
police
car in half and smashed it together, made iron gloves.
They were Hulk hands. With
Yeah.
Police cars.
Like from that video game, Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
Yeah.
Oh my
I remember
god,
That's the
yes!
best Hulk game,
Yeah, I
hands
remember.
down.
Holy
I remember everyone loving it, and how surprised everyone was that it was good.
Right?
All a game needs is strong mechanics. You don't need too
'cause
good of a
Hulk's strong.
story.
That's right.
Man, I don't know. That just reminds me of more games that I want to get into. Like Grant and Matt, some of the guys that I jam with a lot. They came over on Saturday just to hang out and chill. Grant brought his Switch because he was also watching Ozzy while I was at work. And we were just watching him play BioShock 2. And I was like, God damn, that just looks like so much fun. I don't know what's going on in the story at this point, but like just seeing all these cool stealthy maneuvers and seeing all the awesome guns. I love
Magic
guns.
powers.
Oh my god, I love them guns.
All the scariness is scary.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is more terrifying than Infinite.
Oh yeah. Infinite's just about the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're just going fast. You're shooting stuff, running around.
At
Oh
the speed
look,
of sound.
politics stuff. Time we're shooting.
Yeah.
Oh no, is this an analog to American racism?
Politics in my video game? I don't think so.
It's time to shoot it.
Shoot the racism! Shut up!
You kind of do. Like, no spoil. It's not a big spoiler, but you end up like there's this demonstration where they're about to stone a black man in
Oh
public.
yeah.
yeah, because he
He-
was marrying the
Because
white
he was
girl?
because he was
Miscegenation.
he was in love with a white woman.
Yeah.
And you know how it were back in 1910s America. But
Especially 1910s America trying to emulate 1840s America.
Yeah.
basically,
Well, it's I guess Bismarck too doesn't know the premise of the game. It's like utopia if conservative America won, and it's
It's
all
like if the South won.
Yeah.
The South won the
basically, it's
Civil
like-
Well,
War.
that's funny because it's like because I bought the 3 on the Switch. I bought Bioshock 2, and Bioshock Infinite.
mhm.
And when I see like the still Bioshock Infinite, like the color scheme is very red
Yeah.
with like
Yeah.
white with like cream color.
It's
So
very-
that does come across like the conservative kind of like, color scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the weird things for BioShock Infinite. I love the setting
Mhm.
because I just love that kind of architecture and those sort of towns.
Oh,
But
it looks beautiful.
Yeah,
The-
it's like a steampunk.
yeah,
South.
Yeah.
steampunk.
I forget if I saw you play it or not, but I saw
Yeah.
someone play it.
Yeah,
but
we're at my
it's,
house on
it's
time
just
ago.
a political atmosphere. It's like everything could be perfect if you guys weren't bigots.
Yeah.
I mean, they want you to feel that when you play it, right?
Yeah, well,
I
there's like posters, right? That's like, don't let the immigrant in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's this part where you
How
go.
do they even get immigrants? Aren't they in the sky?
Yeah.
they took the illegal rocket.
Oh.
But yeah, it's like there's even this section because I'm guessing it takes place around World War One because there's this section about how
Is it the interwar period?
I don't remember exactly when. There's
Okay.
just this section where like there's an obvious, like incredibly obvious historical revision regarding regarding America's
Was it the Native American? Like, is that what you're referring to?
but that's part of it. There's the part where they're like, "Oh, we tamed the savages."
Yeah.
But there's also like there was I forgot what actual historical conflict it was with China, but they're painting them
Oh.
as the yellow menace.
Yeah.
And there's like this entire section where you're fighting in this museum, and they have these pop-ups of like very racist caricatures of of Chinese people, and it's like, wow, they really just kind of bit the bullet with this one and said
Yeah.
if we're going to like make a viable action shooter that's also extremely like on the nose,
Politically.
anti, what would you even call that?
Anti-America, or at the very least, anti-American. Anti-America's imperialism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, cause like that's definitely shit that you can see in America if you go to the right places, but it's not something that's like very prominent at all today in modern America. But I think I think it was more of a set piece than anything, which isn't that bad. I just think that they created this sort of historical, this historical universe where the Civil War was won by the South. So it's like if you imagine that, then you kind of have to imagine the repercussions of that.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're not going to have a very strong liberal base. You're not going to have a fondness for non-white people, and that's just kind of what the setting became. If that's where they're starting from.
And you're gonna have an even greater disparity of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Where
There-
like you look at that game, like you start off in like the more utopian area, and then you go into like the more like slums region,
Yeah.
and it's like starkly different.
You go into the Hoover towns.
Yeah.
It's basically what it was. Fucking Great Depression era shanty towns.
Mhm.
Oh, you have your bowling baby.
And they have there's a word for it when, fuck, I forgot the word for it, but there's a lot of like you'll hear like music. It's like modern music, but like done in the style.
Yeah.
Like the barbershop quartet singing Beach Boys.
Yes, I love that. They actually have the whole soundtrack on YouTube.
Yeah.
They have that really cool like blues, like a boogie woogie piano cover of that Soft Cell song, Tainted Love.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Also, was one of Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
like,
the
it's cool.
soundtrack is pure perfection. It is like
I don't know what the word.
it's like, have you guys heard Postmodern Jukebox?
Yeah, I love Most of Mine Jukebox.
It's basically that, but like, I don't know. It's the setting that really makes it. It's like that much more believable.
Yeah. Also, there's a cool boss fight with a George Washington robot.
That one
I
is
love
cool.
that where he has the minigun, right?
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
It's like a giant mech. It's George Washington.
Oh my god.
There's one of
Great.
Abraham Lincoln too.
Yeah. It's a super fun boss fight.
I need to play it again. I miss Bioshock Infinite.
But yeah, politics in my game.
I'm sorry for everybody who's listening. I was like, were we EP? What were you guys talking about?
You know, we barely talked about the first EP.
That's okay. Let's do a recap. About 35 to 40 minutes of this chat was dedicated to politics, Bioshock Infinite, and me going out to talk to a potential scammer.
He didn't even have
Anachronism.
business. He didn't even have
He
business
didn't.
cards.
I asked him, "Hey,
Yeah.
can we take a card?" And he's like, "No, I don't have any on me."
Oh, so the word is anachronism.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The girl in it.
Girl
Anachronism.
And then like the rest of it was spent talking about our actual music. So let's try, because we're getting to about an hour 20 soon.
Also, we didn't talk about last song, Last Dance,
Oh yes.
which is
That-
basically a reprise of Twist of Fate.
I don't know how it came to me. Like I was literally just like, I kind of want to like write something more for Twist of Fate, because it feels like it ends on sort of like a, not like a low note, but it ends sort of anticlimactically. So it was like, what if we just added more to it? And I immediately thought of like that surfy kind of like the heavy reverb on the guitar, and the classic wipeout beats on the toms, and that's just where it came from. It's like maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
But that's the end. It's supported, like Brandon said, it's the reprise for Twist of Fate.
Yeah, it's really good.
I like it because when I think of like with like the lyrics and I hear that, it reminds me of like, with like the surf sound it has. It reminds me of like the beaches in Normandy. Like that's what I think about. Like I think
Oh
about
my
like
gosh.
that
Cool.
going.
I never even thought
Music
of that.
video.
Ooh,
Beaches in
yeah.
Normandy while Twist of Fate is playing.
Yeah, let's shoot it on location.
Yeah.
Let's get everybody who was there.
That's
Just
actually how
like-
they faked the moon landing. They shot on location.
Okay, guys. I know this is a long shot, but what if? Okay, we got to convince these people that we were on the moon. So why don't we just, go there? Oh my God,
Give this man a raise.
Spielberg, you're in for a real treat. Isn't that the leading theory that Spielberg actually directed the fucking
Kubrick.
Kubrick.
Kubrick,
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, because of like based on
What
what
he-
he did with 2001.
2001.
They're like,
Yeah.
oh, he faked it. Because if he could do that, he could fake the moon landing.
Okay, so let's kind of round off this cast. First of all, I want to thank everybody who's been supporting the Camerata from day one. We are nearing like 3 years of camaradeness, and it's been
Camaraderie.
Yep.
of camaraderie. Oh my God, brilliant! Why didn't I think of that? But yeah, it's been like an amazing ride. I've gotten to meet incredible musicians, incredible artists, people of all sorts of creative paths, and it's just been a blessing to be able to have this as a sort of as a project, an ongoing project for sure, but also as a community. So again, I do want to thank everybody who's been supporting the Camerata. We have a whole bunch coming up, so if you're listening to this, we'll just kind of name it off. We've got a whole bunch of live events. If, of course, we don't have a fourth COVID wave, we do have a show coming up at DBA 256 in Pomona. We have a house party show a couple of weeks. Oh wait, July 23rd. Before I go any further with that, at DBA 256, we've got a whole bunch of cool bands and artists lined up for that. So far, we have Pork Boy. Shout outs to Pork Boy. We have General Ed. Shout outs to them. And then we do have a little house party gig that we are setting up, a little acoustic, sort of casual party kind of thing. It's going to be on July 10th. We will put flyers out for all this as well. And yeah, aside from that, more podcast episodes will be on the way. We've got more ads for our Spotify playlists. We've got that planned out as well. But yeah, whole bunch of stuff coming up with the Camerata. So stay tuned for that. Thank you. Do the Big Hat Logan boys? Do y'all have anything else you want to add?
Sponsor us. We need money
Please.
to live.
We will take any fiscal sponsorship.
Also take physical sponsorship. If you just want to hold me up and make sure I don't fall down on my face, I'll take that. I'm not going to be eating because I'm too poor, so
Oh,
please
God.
just hold me up.
That's part of our stage setup. We have a physical sponsor for Nick, and he's always like leaning. playing
Yeah.
guitar.
Do like the Michael Jackson lean, but I don't have the shoes for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, some guys just holding it.
Hold Nick up, hold Nick. We don't want a spinal tap.
Oh no.
It's like the Flintstones thing where he looks at the camera and is like, "It's a living."
We still have to pay the sponsor. Oh Jesus. Oh shit.
We're his sponsor.
Yeah.
We're his fiscal sponsor, but he's our physical sponsor.
Yeah, it's his dream to hold people up.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, we're the hippos and they're the birds. 'Cause I'm fat.
Oh. You're chunkus, but in a good way.
That sounds worse.
Yeah.
You're
just fucking disgusting.
you're
dude.
fun sized.
Isn't that tiny?
Oh.
Which I guess still applies.
No.
Family side.
Family size, yeah.
But that's still worse.
Let's stop. I feel bad. All right. Anything else? Again, our EP should be coming out within the month. We don't have a set date yet.
I mean-
wait, what was that?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I mean, if anyone out there hasn't listened to the first EP,
Go
go
listen
check it
to
out.
yeah, check
Yeah.
out Watch It Happen. Again, we appreciate all support. This is kind of what we want to do for a living. We don't want to be a part of the capitalist minimum wage machine. We want to be part of the musician capitalist minimum wage machine, if anything.
I was about to say we don't want to be part of that 9 to 5, but I don't even have the luxury of working 9 to 5.
Oh God.
It's whenever they say they need you.
Yeah. It's from 4 p.m. to 1 and then 8 a.m. till 4.
Shit, really? Back to back?
Always.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, I'm sorry. Oh,
I hate my job.
They don't assume that healthy human beings need at least 7 hours of sleep.
I mean,
you
to
know.
be fair, almost all the workers there have 2 jobs. So,
Yeah.
and work 16-hour days.
To be fair, in what way?
To be fair, like in like the they don't mind scheduling us that way because
It's like, oh, you have a second job anyway.
yeah.
That's not fair. That's just like how can we twist this to be as profitable as possible
Yeah.
without completely destroying our employee base?
Yeah.
How-
Lies, that's how.
How can we swing this hammer hard enough without the head coming off?
I cry every time.
I'm sorry.
Like if you cry every time.
I like.
I don't
I cry
like.
every time.
I cry every time,
like
but I
and
don't
subscribe.
like.
Yeah.
So everybody unsubscribe from capitalism.
Let's cancel capitalism, guys.
And hit the
It's
bell.
already
on, Big Hat
happening. It's
Games.
just not happening fast enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess parting words. Thank you again. Expect Camerata podcast episodes every Friday, 3 p.m. on our channel on YouTube. I really need to work on getting it on Spotify and all those streaming platforms. but
DistroKid.
I know. It's just like I know how to do it. I just don't do it because it just passes my mind.
Yeah, I've been there.
I have too much to do. What was I even thinking?
Parting words, but I say parting words.
The fucking EDM like drum and bass cover of what is that?
That's a Kirby.
Yeah, what
Gourmet
theme
Race.
though?
Yeah.
Which one?
Gourmet race.
Oh, okay. Oh, fucking headphones coming up.
It's the Big Hat Logan party anthem. Let's go.
The French or the gourmet race.
Oh.
All right. Thank you to everybody for listening. This was Big Hat Logan. This is your host, Andres Marquez. We will catch y'all on the flip side. Have a wonderful whatever time of day it is.